On June 28, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the heir to the Austro-Hungarian Empire, was assassinated in Sarajevo, Bosnia. This event is known as the trigger for the start of the First World War. So, what led to this assassination? Why did it happen, and why did it lead to the First World War? Well, let's find out. Austria-Hungary was a large empire that controlled many different ethnic groups within it. Some of these groups included Germans, Hungarians, Czechs, Slovaks, Romanians, Serbs, Croats, and Bosnian Muslims.
Ho, ho, ho!
Of all of these groups, the most numerous were the Slavs, with there being over 6 million living within the empire by 1914. Despite making up about a quarter of the empire's population, the Slavs had very little political power. The ruling elite of Austria-Hungary was almost exclusively German and Hungarian. The Slavs therefore felt oppressed by the dual monarchy and desired independence or at the very least more autonomy. Tensions between the Austrians and the Slavs would only rise as the century progressed.
Ho, ho, ho!
By the early 1900s, many Slavs began advocating for independence. Pan-Slavism was a movement that called for all Slavic peoples to unite and break free from foreign rule. This included those living in Austria-Hungary. By this point, the Russian Empire also had an interest in Slavic people and began encouraging the Slavs within Austria-Hungary to rebel. Soon enough, a group would form that sought to violently overthrow Austrian rule in Bosnia, the Black Hand.
Ho, ho, ho!
Formed in 1908 after Austria-Hungary annexed Bosnia, the Black Hand wanted full independence from the Austrians and a unification with Serbia. The group carried out acts of sabotage against the Austrian government and plotted several assassinations of key figures. However, their patience would soon pay off. Franz Ferdinand was born on December 18, 1863 in Austria. At this time, he was the second in line to the throne behind his uncle, Emperor Franz Joseph.
Ho, ho, ho!
Ferdinand was a strong supporter of the dual monarchy and the German people who lived within it. He believed that the Slavic people were inferior and should be ruled over by the Germans. Ferdinand married Sophie Chodek, a Czech noblewoman, in 1900, much to the disapproval of his uncle, who believed that she wasn't good enough for him. The marriage made Sophie the Duchess of Austria and Hungary, but she and her children would never be allowed to use the title of royal. Despite this, they remained popular among the public.
Ho, ho, ho!
In 1914, Franz Joseph's nephew would become the heir presumptive, meaning that he was now first in line to the throne. As he had a son, Franz Ferdinand's position dropped to second in line. Ferdinand and his wife didn't take this well, and so it was decided that they would move to Sarajevo, Bosnia, and rule over as its governor. Now, this was a huge mistake, as Sarajevo was a highly nationalist city. Many of the residents hated the Austrians and supported the Slavs instead.
Ho, ho, ho!
As we know, Ferdinand was not exactly a fan of the Slavs, so he was already not liked by the majority of people in Sarajevo. Then came the incident that really started the war, though. On June 28, 1914, Ferdinand and his wife left their Sarajevo residence and went for a drive around the city in an open-top car. They intended to visit the city's governor, who had recently been put under house arrest for supporting the Slavs. Along the way, they drove past a number of Serbian and Bosnian shops and buildings.
Ho, ho, ho!
It was here where Gavrilo Princip, a member of the Black Hand, saw his opportunity. He had actually tried to assassinate Ferdinand earlier that day when the Archduke's motorcade passed by a bridge. Princip threw a small bomb at the car, but it bounced off the top of the vehicle and exploded underneath, injuring Ferdinand's security detail. The car continued on to the governor's house, but Ferdinand and his wife then decided that they would return back home. As the car turned around and headed back, they drove right past Princip once again.
Ho, ho, ho!
And this time, he acted quickly. He pulled out a revolver and fired 2 shots at the car. One hit Ferdinand in the neck and the other hit his wife in the abdomen. The 2 then slumped over in the car, dying from their wounds. Their security detail immediately returned fire into the crowd, killing 1 man and injuring 4 others. Princip and the other assassins fled the scene. News of the assassination sent shockwaves across Europe. Everyone was shocked by the audacious attack and outraged at the death of the Archduke.
Ho, ho, ho!
With tensions already high in Europe due to the arms race and imperialism, the assassination caused an international crisis. Who would be blamed for the death of the Archduke? Would there be war? And if so, who would fight on which side? The Austrians were quick to blame Serbia for the attack. A full investigation was launched and evidence was found that pointed directly at the Serbian government.
Ho, ho, ho!
This was mainly based on the fact that the conspirators were members of the Black Hand, a group that had links to the Serbian military intelligence service. The Austrians demanded that the Serbian government was to be completely dismantled and replaced with a new one that would be more favorable to the Austrians. They also wanted full access to Serbia so that they could carry out the investigation without interference. Serbia refused to comply with all of Austria's demands.
Ho, ho, ho!
They accepted some, such as allowing the Austrians to enter Serbia and conduct the investigation, but rejected others, such as dissolving the government. This wasn't good enough for the Austrians, though, and they prepared for intervention. Ferdinand's nephew, Franz Joseph, was furious upon hearing of the assassination. He gave Austria's leadership the ultimatum that if Serbia didn't agree to all of their demands, then they would declare war.
Ho, ho, ho!
While this was going on, the French and Russian governments tried to convince the Austrians to hold off on any military action until the summer, as this would give the Slavic people time to plan a rebellion. But this wasn't possible. Austria's leader, Karl von Berchtold, was eager to act quickly and crush Serbia before any other European power could intervene. On July 23rd, Austria declared war on Serbia and began their invasion through Bosnia.
Ho, ho, ho!
They advanced rapidly and easily defeated the unprepared Serbians. As this was happening, though, Europe was tense as everyone waited to see how the other powers would react. Would Russia intervene and help their Slavic allies? What about France and their ties to the Antwerp Cordial? How would Germany feel about all of this? No one knew what was going to happen. Within days, things would kick off. On July 28th, Russia mobilized their army in support of Serbia.
Ho, ho, ho!
2 days later, they had already begun moving troops into East Prussia to stop the German advance. On August 1st, Germany declared war on them and began their invasion through Belgium. 3 days later, the British also declared war on Germany after they refused to withdraw from Belgian territory. The French waited a little longer, but eventually joined the fighting on the side of the Entente. And so World War I had begun?
Ho, ho, ho!
So, in conclusion, the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand was the spark that started the powder keg that was Europe in 1914. There were already lots of tensions across the continent, and the assassination of the Austrian heir provided the catalyst for war. The Austrians then used the attack to crack down on the Slavs and declared war on Serbia, which caused Russia to intervene. This caused the Germans to intervene, which in turn caused the French and British to join the fight.
Ho, ho, ho!
All of this could have been avoided if Ferdinand wasn't such a bigot and didn't antagonize the Slavic people so much. Perhaps if the Austrians had worked to improve relations with the Slavs, then the Black Hand wouldn't have been so popular. And finally, maybe the Austrians shouldn't have been so trigger-happy. If they had shown more restraint, then there's a chance that World War I might have been avoided entirely. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like.
Ho ho ho!
And if you want to see more videos like these, then consider subscribing.
Ho ho ho!